Let us now come to some more functions of the endoplasmic reticulum. First, the protein folding, the assembly of multi-subunit proteins, disulfide bond formation, initial stages of glycosylation, and addition of glycolipid anchors to some plasma membrane proteins. In our previous discussion, we have seen that proteins are translocated across the endoplasmic reticulum as unfolded polypeptide chains while their translation is still going on. Now, where does this nascent polypeptide fold then? Within the endoplasmic reticulum. The molecular chaperones or chaperones, as we pronounce them, help in this process. Actually, the primary role of proteins present in the endoplasmic reticulum lumen is to catalyze the folding and assembly of newly translocated polypeptides. Here we come across the BIP, which is nothing but the HSP70. What is HSP? HSP stands for heat shock protein, or what we have already mentioned as the chaperones or the chaperones. Unfolded polypeptide chain plus this BIP causes helps the protein to fold, and it helps in the assembly of multi-subunit protein within the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, what is the role of this BIP? BIP plus polypeptide means the binding protein, BIP, BI for binding and P for protein. So binding protein, it attaches with the polypeptide, and if the protein is properly folded, then it will move to the Golgi and via the secretory pathway. And if it is improperly folded, it will remain bound to the BIP and will get degraded but will never enter the secretory pathway. Here is the picture. We can see that the binding protein BIP, this orange color thing, it is the BIP, the binding protein. It is helping in the proper folding of the protein which is entering the endoplasmic reticulum. And if it is properly folded, it will move through the secretory pathway. They are not transported further along the secretory pathway if improperly folded. Another important step in protein folding is disulfide bond formation. Disulfide bond formation. Here we come across another picture. You can see that there are two different segments of the cell. We can say compartments. This is the endoplasmic reticulum lumen, and this side is the cytosol. In the cytosol, there is a reducing environment. And this reducing environment always maintains cysteine residues in their reduced SH state. Therefore, disulfide bond formation is not possible in the cytosol. Therefore, if the disulfide bond has to be formed, then it should occur in the endoplasmic reticulum. In the endoplasmic reticulum, a reducing environment, the oxidizing environment exists. The reducing environment is present in the cytosol, and in the endoplasmic reticulum there is an oxidizing environment. In this oxidizing environment, an enzyme, protein disulfide isomerase, it helps in the disulfide bond formation. Thus, endoplasmic reticulum helps in the assembly of multi-subunit proteins. We now come to glycosylation. What is glycosylation? The addition of carbohydrate to the proteins. In a nutshell, very few proteins in the cytosol are glycosylated. Again, glycosylation is at too many sites interferes with protein folding. So, glycosylation mainly occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum. The covalent addition of sugars to protein, it is one of the major biosynthetic functions of the endoplasmic reticulum. Most of the soluble and membrane-bound proteins that are made in the endoplasmic reticulum, including those destined for transport to the Golgi apparatus, lysosome, plasma membrane, or extracellular space, are glycoproteins. This is the picture. we come to see the asparagine linked or N-linked oligosaccharide that is added to most proteins in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now the question arises, do all proteins get glycosylated? No, all proteins do not get glycosylated. Only proteins which are of this category and this category will undergo glycosylation. Means asparagine X serine or asparagine X threonine. What is this X? X stands for any amino acid except proline. They become glycosylated.